So what do you do in your free time when you're not working on your PhD?
Yeah, so I'm quite extroverted, so I really love spending time with friends and family. I actually find it really relaxing being in busy social situations. Absolutely love it. I know some people really don't. So I frequently take part in multiple sporting activities as well. I really find that exercise de-stresses me. So I started doing pole fitness this year, and I've joined the competition team, which I've absolutely loved. I've even gone and brought my own pole during lockdown, which has been so good because when things aren't going well, I'm always ready to learn a new trick, especially as a beginner. I obviously didn't know very much, so I felt like I was always progressing with that. And I absolutely love going for runs just to clear my head and just sort of, I guess in one way, it kind of gets any anger and stress out because I can just run quicker then. If I'm in a bad mood, I'll run very quick.
Yeah. In fact, even recently, I figured it out because I was not sporty at all. But I think in the last 2-3 years, I've picked that up, and it seems like one of a very good way to de-stress. Because the other activities or hobbies that I was involved with were more like sitting related hobbies, so like painting or singing. So this one is different, and I really agree with this, and especially the dopamine rush that you get after that is literally something worth investing for. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, what's your take on this? Is one of the most important questions, especially when you're towards the end of your PhD. What's your take on the mental health and PhD?
Yep, I think mental health awareness is growing. And I think that's really important that that's happening, especially for PhD students. I know one study showed that PhD students, I think, were up to twice as likely to have symptoms of mental health than the rest of the highly educated population. And a lot of that probably is because it is a highly pressured environment. It can be lonely in the lab. And when experiments are failing, you're embarking on a journey that someone hasn't done before. This is all new research. So most of it isn't going to work straight away. Otherwise, someone would have done it already if it was easy. So it can really make you feel like you fail. Impostor syndrome is a really big aspect that goes through all of academia. And so it really makes you feel like you don't belong in this challenging environment. So I think your mental health really is important. And I think it should be a priority. I'm quite lucky that my supervisor sees it as a priority as well. And I find being open with her, my friends, and my family is really important for your support network. I don't think it really matters who your support network is, but I think it's really essential that you do have one. If that's other PhD students, people at home, just kind of having that open conversation. I find that very helpful. I'm sure some of my friends are sick of hearing me complain, but we end up laughing by the end of it anyways. And that just brings your mood round and changes your day. And as I said before, I'm at the beginning of my PhD, I wouldn't be comfortable taking time off, and I'd be like, I need to be in the lab, this isn't working, I need to be in there more, which would only make my mental health sort of come down more. Whereas now I'm quite happy to be like, I need to step away, I'm comfortable doing that. And not only do I feel better, enjoy my PhD, have a more positive outlook, but actually more of my PhD works. That may just be because I'm more experienced now, but I do think sometimes your attitude has a lot to do with how I'm viewing even data that may not have worked. I still view it as there's some sort of success behind that. I've learned something rather than just being like, oh, it's just another thing that hasn't worked. Like there's still something to learn and understand from that. So I think it is important, really essential.
Yeah. And talk about I wanted to mention here is that I read recently in one of the books that often people who suffer with trauma, also if they speak, openly about their trauma, it helps reducing the effects of it and also the negative impact that it has on your body. So even in trauma research, especially in case of PTSD, they've shown how open talking or discussing about your trauma can relieve the stress that the trauma was causing you. So in our case also, I mean, as PhDs, whatever we are going through, if we talk about it to other people, and as you correctly mentioned that it's not about who your support system is, but to have a good support system is something that is very important. So if it can help the extreme trauma case, why not the daily stuff that we go through. So it's not that extreme, but truly it's a very important step, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, especially when you've got PhD students talking to each other and things about their own experiences, you actually find that everyone's made really silly mistakes, and
Yes.
it makes you feel a lot better. So I know once when I was having a down day, I was like, oh, I think I very recently I picked up a 5 ml pipette, put the tip on, went to take up some liquid. My liquid came up bubbling. I was like, what is? I had 2 tips on the end of my pipette, and I was just like, I'm literally going into my final year. How have I done this? My friend very recently went to pour agar plates, realized they'd done all of them in the lids. So we all find this very amusing, and they're little things now that we laugh about. But I know sometimes, especially at the beginning of your PhD, if I'd done that then, I'd have felt really incompetent and felt like I shouldn't be here. Whereas now I just went, oh, everyone, you won't believe what I've just done. Everyone's just like, oh, not again. I'm like, yeah, you won't believe it. So it is that confidence. And when you get PhD students talking about their failures with each other, I actually think that's really important, because we're all going to make silly little mistakes. We do it all the time. I've seen people blow up glassware because they've put pressurized gas in and haven't got anywhere for it to come out. They're normal mistakes. They're going to happen. And I think it's important that we can share and laugh about these, because I find that really helpful. My friends will tease me about it, but I'm teasing them about a different one. And it's nice. We like that, because we've got this understanding that, oh, that's funny that that happened to you. But you also are aware that they know that you're capable and they support you when you are feeling down. So you know also that when they're teasing you about things, it's not, oh, I think you're absolutely useless. It's, can you believe this one who's meant to be smart has done this? So it's also that sort of joking around with it. I think that's really nice as well.
Yeah, that's true. The attitude towards it is just amazing that you guys have. Yeah. I mean, we also do this, but yeah, I mean, in a different setup, because it's not a molecular work, but this is so discussing this with your peers really changes the way, because then you realize that you're not the only one who's committing these silly mistakes. They are also there for you, and everybody's little crazy. So that's good. Yeah.
Just
So
wait till the supervisor starts making them. That's when it gets fun. When they start telling you their mistakes, they're like, oh, don't worry, I did this. And you're like, oh, okay, I feel better now.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had the same feeling, because I'm also quite open to my supervisor. And when we start talking about things, when she tells me what she did as a PhD student or as a postdoc, it really helps. In fact, we were talking recently about self-doubt, and I one day felt very low, and she sort of noticed it on my face. So she wrote me an email about the whole aspect. And then I told her that, I was feeling like this because I started to doubt myself. And then in reply, she wrote to me that this is common and I also feel like that. So I was like, she's a supervisor. She's doing so good. I mean, externally, I think that she's doing so good and balancing everything, her personal life, her professional life. So like for me, it was hard to believe that she would also have similar sort of self-doubt. So it's great that they also open up about how they feel and what they have gone through, so that you can relate. And as individuals, if we can relate with each other, that's how strongly we can bond with each other, right?
Yeah, it's really nice. I had a similar thing with my supervisor, and it's when they're there and they're like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. And you're looking at them like, but you do everything wonderfully all the time. What? You're looking at them like they're some sort of like Wonder Woman, and they're just like, oh, but it's not how I feel. When you're like, oh. So it is interesting. And I before had someone say to me, oh, it's amazing. You're always doing so well in your PhD and you managed to have such an amazing social life. How do you do it? And I kind of looked at this person, because to me, I felt like I was drowning and everything was going horribly wrong. But they were like, no, that's not how I see it. And I was like, it's crazy, someone else's perspective on your life.
Yeah, true. Yeah, in fact, even a lot of people ask me also about how I'm managing this YouTube channel and also the other things. But for me, it is just crazy. I mean, yeah, it is not that easy, but probably the way we project ourselves is something the way people perceive us. And in fact, then that brings more motivation that, if they can see us like this, then we can be much better. Sometimes we do seek external validation, I would say. I mean, a lot of it is internal validation that guides us, but I would say eventually we do need some external validation as human beings, for sure.
Yeah, I think internal is very important and is really essential for your mental health and your own success, because you need to be I'm such a thing for you need to be your number one biggest fan, right?
Yes.
Because if someone says something that's a little upsetting to you, if you're more confident with yourself and what you're doing, it won't affect you the same way. But external validation, especially when it comes from your supervisors and peers, is always so important. So it's great to hear that people are giving sort of validation to colleagues and friends. It's really nice. And I think it's something we should continue in academia a lot. It is becoming more. I think we should more openly be like, you're doing a really good job. Like, I like what you've done there. I like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and we often don't consider this. I've also personally realized, or maybe if you see your colleague working late, or if they look tired, that they have a committee meeting maybe next day and they feel so stressed, just tell them they are going to do good tomorrow, and then I don't know, it's just few words, but it can just change the way they look at themselves. Because at that point of time, maybe your internal validation is not working. It has crashed.
That does happen. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're almost towards the end of the interview. This one question is that how does PhD affect your private life?
Yeah, so I'd say my PhD affects my private life, I guess, like any job would. My social life is something that's really important to me. And I guess you are kind of juggling work and your private life. And I think it is important that you give time to both. Yes. There are times when my PhD needs more work and I need to be putting in more time. Something might be going well. I might be having a deadline that's coming up. So sometimes I have to put certain aspects of my social life on pause, but I'll try to still have a few things scattered in between, if that's me going for a run or a cycle with friends. Like, I'll try to link the exercise with meeting with the friends, because then I've kind of done two things at once to calm myself down and re-energize myself back for work. But then there are other times where my work, I don't have as much to do. I've got more low time, so I can spend a bit more time with friends and family. And that's when I can take my annual leave. And one thing I've started doing now is when I take annual leave, I literally leave my laptop behind and do not do any work, because I was quite bad for sort of, I'll take it home and just do a few little bits while I'm there. And I was like, it's not very helpful to help me fully recover and come back full of life. I was like, I'm not as recovered as I could be. Whereas if I just shut everything off, I come back a lot more refreshed. So I think that balance, you'll figure out for yourself. Everyone's will be slightly different, because everyone's going to prioritize things differently. But I think in one way, it came quite naturally to me. Initially, I was too much social life and I had to drag the PhD up along with it. But I think you will kind of figure it out, although it might feel a little bit like walking on a tightrope at times, but you'll just get better at walking the tightrope. It'll be fine.
Thanks. I mean, this is equally important for me as for the new prospective students, because I'm still just not even completed 1 year. We'll be completing one in the next September. So these things. Yeah. And then we have the last question here, is that what is one message that you want to share with the people who are watching this video today?
Let's start celebrating our mistakes, because they're valuable learning opportunities. That's what I'd like everyone to take away.
This is such a sweet and wonderful message, crisp, but very important. So I enjoyed our discussion today. Thanks a lot for doing this. And this is to tell the audience that I hope you watched this video. And we initially had one interview with Summer almost a month ago, and the video quality didn't turn out to be good. And she luckily agreed to shoot this video again. So I'm really thanking her for that. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
And thank you so much for having me. I think what you're doing, this whole series, is absolutely amazing. I wish I'd had something like this that I could have come and looked at before I started. So I'm really glad that someone's gone out and done this. It's amazing.
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you came. And I mean, we discussed a lot about science communication, and I wish if in the future, if we have the possibility, you can come back again and tell us more about DNA, the motives that you were talking about, and probably tell the kids about more about these scientific concepts. So yeah. I wish you a wonderful career, and I hope we keep in touch through Twitter, our social media, and maybe meet sometime.
Yes, me as well. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.